Please take a moment to listen to this disclosure from the Common Ground podcast. The Common Ground podcast is dedicated to exploring commonality among individuals with diverse perspectives. Our guests may present unique worldviews related to health, psychology, and overall well-being. Please note that the Common Ground podcast does not directly promote or endorse any specific ideas, concepts, or actions discussed during our episodes. Listeners are encouraged to approach the information shared with discernment and to consult with their mental and/or physical health providers before making any changes to their health or wellness practices. The views expressed by guests and hosts are their own and do not directly reflect the opinions of the Common Ground podcast. Your well-being is important, and we advocate for informed decision-making. Thanks for listening.
If I come to yoga and I get healing for yoga, I don't need to know the background of how I got it. I know that I feel healed. And it's like if I eat the food that feels nourishing for my body and it tastes delicious, I don't need to know how they made it. I can go into it and I can go into the details of all the things, but it doesn't take away from the experience I'm having when I eat a delicious meal. You know, it can add to it, but it can also take away from it. And I feel like sometimes we try and pigeonhole, like, and I love these questions that you're asking because it's detailed. And I'm like, but I don't necessarily agree with all of it. I might agree with parts of it. And yet I know that the impact that it's had on my life has been so life-changing that I don't care.
Have you seen the show My 600-Pound Life? Or okay, it's an American thing. I actually haven't seen it. It pops up in random clips. But one of the common themes in this show, without going into a whole side tangent here, is that those foods are what their body is accustomed to. And so that is what feels nourishing to them. And when you actually give them foods that are good for them, sometimes it makes them sick at first because their body is so used to being in this vitamin deficiency state that they can have side effects that make them physically ill while they're adjusting to that because they've been fed something that is not good for them for so long. Likewise, if we're fed something that is spiritually not good for us for so long, when does it become our moral responsibility to tell somebody that even though this feels good to you, it's actually not what's true?
And I would say that vibration and belief are basically the same thing, because there's scripture that says that if you have the faith of a mustard seed and you say to this mountain move, this mountain will move. It's, you can call it vibration, I call it belief. My foundation is belief. And it is that I do believe, like, that kind of, I'm very big into the power of positive speaking, but I do agree with you, it can't just be words. Because words without actions, words without belief are null and void. So yeah, like you said, you could go, I'm full, and your stomach goes, I'm hungry.
Well, I'll tell you something funny, Sydney. When we first spoke, because I didn't see your face, I just heard your voice. The first thing I thought was in the Gene Key, she'd be a line 5 because her voice has quite a potency to it. And what I mean by that is that it's like we all carry these different frequencies and you know, like, you know, Philly or John, I would guess that you're very community based and I just kind of feel into that. And when you're very community based, the way that you communicate is like you would draw a lot of people together. You just have this natural sort of network. You'd be the center of the spider web. You wouldn't necessarily be the flashy one, but you'd be the one that's sort of bringing these groups of people together. And the Gene Keys goes into that, and it would talk about, well, these are maybe the shadow patterns that would hold you back from that natural gift to bring people together. Or these would be the special gifts that you have to offer to the world. You know, as like where with you, Sydney, it would be like, well, you have these certain gifts, but as soon as your tone changes, then we know maybe you're dropping into fear a little bit.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast, where stories connect, perspectives collide, and purpose is found in the middle.
Every week, we sit down with unique and inspiring guests that come from all walks of life. People who challenge the status quo, overcome the odds, and live with intentionality.
Whether you're driving to work, on your morning walk, or just looking for that spark to ignite your week, you're in the right place.
Welcome to the Common Ground podcast with your hosts, John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin.
Welcome to another edition of the Common Ground podcast. Yes, it is your boy. That's right. It is Philly in the house. Going to wreck this joint tonight. We're going to party like it's 1965, you know? Especially after last night's president's address to the nation. So I'm ready to party.
There you go.
So as always, I have the most beautiful, Melania doesn't have anything to her, you know, Miss Sydney Curtin, the extraordinaire, the fantastic, the brilliant.
You are too good to me, John. How's it going, Philly?
It is going fantastic. So I was out with my friend this week who's a yoga instructor, and I asked him, I was like, you want a donut? He goes, yogis don't eat donuts. I was like, yogis don't eat donuts? I go, why don't yogis eat donuts? He goes, because they lack their inner peace.
That's a pretty good one. I accept.
Why is it that it is hard to get a yoga instructor to leave? Because they just keep on saying namaste.
Let us know which your favorite dad joke is in the comment section. Dad joke number 1 or dad joke number 2. Those were pretty good. I don't know which one I like more.
I don't know.
Namaste.
I like the namaste. Feels like I'm back in the hood. Nah, namaste. Nah, namaste. I'm not stay. I'm gonna stay, man. I said namaste.
You would choose that, being from Philadelphia.
Yeah. Like we used to be like, know what I'm saying? Know what's doing? It's like we like always jumble words together, John. So. But today we have a really cool guest with us. We have Miss Shauna Hawkes. Welcome, Shauna. How you doing?
Thank you. I'm well. I'm excited.
Awesome. To give you a little background to who Shauna is a woman embodiment mentor, Gene Keys guy, and yoga teacher based in Sydney, Australia. Yes, we do have Sydney, the host, but we also have Shauna from Sydney with us in the house today. With over 20 years of experience, she specializes in helping women navigate life transitions from breaking free from overthinking and self-sabotage. Some of her core principles is she uses somatic processes and breathwork to help clients move from doing to being, focusing on self-trust and nervous system regulation. Gene Keys and psychic guidance. Hawks provides intuitive readings and Gene Keys sessions to uncover deeper patterns in life and relationships. She is a yoga instructor with over 500 hours of yoga registered teaching. She facilitates classes and retreats at studios such as Power Living Australia and Modern Movement. Her background, she has holistic qualifications. She is certified in emotional freedom techniques, neuro-linguistic programming, and matrix re-imprinting. Her clinical experience is before her focus on wellness. She worked in diverse social work roles, including a maximum security prison and drug rehab center. Wow. Originally from Yakima, Washington, she moved to Australia in 2008. Now, some of the things that she has going on now is she has the Next Chapter Workshop, a series of events held in March at Power Living Neutral Bay, designed for women in transition. Stop the Spiral Workshop, her signature program aimed at ending spiral thoughts through practical grounding strategies. And she hosts a 3-month women's embodiment mentorship and offers free resources like archetypes quiz on her website. So again, that is a lot of credibility, a lot of things going on. And welcome to the Common Ground podcast, Miss Shauna Hawkes.
Thank you. That was a big intro.
Yeah, you've got, a long resume, and it's worth talking about. It gives us a lot to kind of unpack today. But going back to before we kind of get into how this became your area of expertise, one of the first things that was said was um, this idea of disconnect between body and mind is what I heard. So when did that become something that you identified in your life where you were like, okay, I want an answer to this, or I'm noticing that this is what this is?
Mm. Probably when I started going to yoga. So I when I came to visit Australia before I moved here, I had only been to one other yoga class, I think in Washington state. And I got invited to go to this yoga class, and I'll be really honest with you, I hated it. I hated yoga. I didn't like the teacher. I didn't like the smell of the carpet. I didn't like the heat. But there was something about it when I walked out of that room that I felt different. I felt like my whole system was almost electric, and electric in a different kind of way, not in a happy, joyful way, but like something had happened that I couldn't explain with words. And I love words. I love to use my words. So, um, that was probably that first moment, and I just kept going back, and all of a sudden, I realized through the practice, "Oh, I'm actually really, really angry. I am so angry, and this is being stored in my body, and this practice of movement is bringing all this anger to the surface." Whereas before I would have analytical, justified my anger, so this was a new experience for me to experience it so deep in my body, and so I would say that that was the start for me of learning how to get into my body and what that brought up for me for healing wise.
Sure. Who took you to that first yoga class, or did you just decide to go try it out one day?
Yeah, so, I actually met my, husband on the streets of a place called Byron Bay on New Year's Eve, and he said, after we met, he said, "You should come back and visit." And one of his good friends said, when I was visiting, I was only visiting for about 10 days. She said, "Hey, why don't you come with me to this yoga class?" I said, "Oh, I don't really do yoga." And she's like, "It's really amazing and you should just give it a go." So I came with her when I was visiting for that 10 days time. And we probably went once or twice during that 10-day period. So yeah.
Great. It's interesting. And so, even going further back though, because you said, after that yoga class, what you figured out was that what you were feeling or what you were dealing with was this anger inside of you, and that was some of the disconnect. So where did that anger come from?
A lot of traumatic moments in my life that had been stored in my body, and just growing up in an environment where I would say, my mom was very ill when I was growing up. She was extremely suicidal, so I spent many of my days pulling her out of the we'll call it out of those situations, and getting her into the hospital. And she was with a narcissistic, partner who was a woman, but it was in the '80s when it wasn't really a thing. Like, the early '80s, you don't that was like, "We don't talk about that, we don't go there, we hide everything." So, and she was a homicide detective turned, trauma therapist, but extremely narcissistic, and would tell me things like, "Oh, yeah, the reason your mom's hurting herself is because of you, and, if you just weren't in the picture, everything would be okay," and just really fucked with my mind, to be really honest. And then I had, a father who my mom and dad got divorced when my mom was pregnant with me. So, and he was, uh and he was abusive. I only saw him twice a year, and he, sexually abused me every time I saw him in the household of his mother's house, on every holiday. So, I would say that that's a big cocktail for a lot of, anger that was underneath the surface that I didn't actually know, because I had blocked out most of it because I just needed to survive. I needed to get through life, and feeling at the depths of all those things, or to feel so abandoned or disconnected from the people who are meant to be protecting me and looking after me, created, I think, underneath the surface, deep, deep anger within me, for and not really having an expression for that.
There's two things I want to ask you. And the first one, I want to continue right what we were talking about. You said that you didn't know you were angry until after the yoga.
Mhm.
So did you did you think you were a pretty chill person going into that? And what was the realization like that? Or like, wow, I have all this anger that I didn't realize I had.
Mm,
Like, what did you feel like before you knew it, and what did that feel like at finding that out?
mm. I would say I knew that there was some anger there, but the expression of the anger was covered through circumstance. So I was quite a successful soccer player for many years and got paid to play soccer. And I would take it out on like referees or my coaches or something. Like they would make a small decision and I would just lose it way out of proportion. Like just like it was so out of proportion, but I would always direct that as you did this to me, you've done me wrong, or you're making a mistake. And so I do think the anger was there, but it would come out in ways that I was able to cover it up. Whereas I think I talked to recently. I had a friend visit, and we were in high school together. And I asked him this question. I said, "What was I like?" And he said, "The same. You were the same. You were bubbly and you were bright." And I was like, "I was." And he said, "Yeah, I didn't." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And it sort of gave me this perspective that I must have been really, really good at having a shell around me and hiding what was really going on because I got so used to keeping secrets and not feeling things that I think I just put on the shell of this is what I should look like and this is what I should do. When I hit the yoga mat, it was a different experience because it was through my body so deeply. I mean, I use my words a lot, and I probably hurt a lot of people because I was really disrespectful in my anger towards coaches or towards referees or whatever that experience would have been. In yoga, it was a very internal, like it was like, I don't like what the teacher's saying. I hate the heat. The person next to me is breathing too loud. And I was like realizing, oh my gosh, I'm really angry, but I'm just angry in general. I'm angry about everything. Like, this is just a reflection for my life. I'm actually just so angry. So there was like a differentiation in the anger that was like really outward, and then like seeing the patterning coming up within me and the
I
body.
think I think also playing sports kind of masks that anger
Yeah.
Absolutely.
because in sports, that's how you get that competitive edge. That's how you use that anger to challenge you to be better. You use all the things that people have said about you, told you you can't do it, to to make you go. So being in that sports in that soccer allowed you to mask and be normal even though you were angry.
Yes.
And the second question I kind of had was I kind of want to know what your stigmas of yoga were because I was doing a yoga program which you weren't allowed to call yoga, but it was by this ex-professional wrestler, like WWC wrestler, like, you know, and he had hurt his back and he had and he couldn't wrestle anymore. And one of his friend wrestlers came up and said, "You should try yoga." He's like, "I ain't trying yoga." He tried every little thing besides yoga, and he came back, and his friend's like, "You ready to try yoga yet?" Again, and he actually tried yoga, and it helped him fix his back, and he built a whole program on dynamic resistance, yoga, and rehabilitation,
Mm.
and it's a very popular program. But there was a whole stigma about like, "I'll try everything else before I try yoga," was and I kind of felt like when you were talking, you were talking like yoga, like, "Yeah, nothing, I don't know." Like you had that stigma. What do you think is the stigma about yoga? What scares people off of it? What think makes it feel like it's hokey or not legitimate in your eyes?
A couple things. I think there's this idea that there's this monk that's meditating on a hill, and sits there and has a quiet mind, and it's this idea that it's unapproachable. It's like, oh, okay, well, I mean, most people don't want to sit on a hill and meditate for their life, so they kind of think like, I'm not into this sort of like whatever that is. And so I think there's that. I also think what I experience a lot of as a teacher is people come in and they go, I'm not flexible. And I'm like, but people don't come to yoga flexible, like, they come to get flexible, and I always start with the body because for me, the reason I stay teaching is not because of the body, it's because of what it does to my spirit. It's because it keeps me alive, spiritually, and it calms my nervous system. So the reason I came in the beginning is not the reason I stayed or the reason I teach now, but the body is the gateway to that. So I feel like a lot of people just go, I'm not flexible. I can't do these things. And I just go, well, like, you can't be too dirty to take a bath. Like, you've got to get in the bath, and clean. And that's what I feel like yoga does. So uh, and for me, I thought yoga was, like, slow and bit boring, and when I first, sort of practiced that class, that, I guess in the modality that I teach, which is like a vinyasa flow, it was full on. I was like, "What is this? This is not what I knew for yoga." And that's what was so transforming about it because in a way it was confrontational. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's at least my experience.
It's a really interesting way of answering it. Would you call yoga a sport? Because I've heard people call yoga a sport.
No. I wouldn't
What
call this.
would you define it as? The
Uh,
reason that I ask that is just because, like the yoga classes at the gym, for example, like, you just see this at a basic level, especially for people that don't engage with it the way that you do in, like, a living in the spiritual context. So, I've just witnessed people, like, yeah, I work out, I do yoga, and that's, like, their exercise, it's their
mm,
form of physical well-being, which, of course it is, so are athletics or other forms of sports like that. So what would be the more all-encompassing or accurate from your position
a
title?
movement practice. It's a movement, but it gets you moving. I wouldn't I don't know, like, I don't really see it as a sport because yoga is not meant to be competitive, and I see sports as like there's this uh idea that you could advance and eventually compete. That's my ideas around it. Whereas this is a movement practice, which is designed to you're actually designed to do less than you probably could because that will be possibly even better for you if you do less than you actually could.
Do you said that it the and I agree with you too. I feel like I'm really competitive with myself at the gym too, and I did athletics growing up, so I share the same perspective that I view sports more of it doesn't necessarily have to be a team sport, right? Because you could be talking about tennis, for example, where it's just yourself against your opponent, and then when it's a one-sided engagement, it's just me against me, right? And so in yoga, you mentioned in the beginning, like, you don't come in flexible, right? Of course you
Mm,
don't. Like, whenever you
mm,
start anything, you're not gonna go
mm,
right to it. Yes. There are different levels of experience, though. I mean, if I went into yoga right now, you would be the master of teaching me how to
mm,
do any of this.
mm.
So, from that perspective, is there any element of that I mean, maybe not competition, but self-growth that I mean, like, I still look at it as competition, though, and I'm kinda picking your sports brain about this because coming from an athlete like, I still compete with myself in the gym. What's my new highest rep? How many can I do? That kind
Mm,
of thing.
hmm. I guess I don't see it that way. I don't see yoga that way. I'm thinking of a story. There was a time in my life when I was feeling quite exhausted, like in my physical body, but I felt like I wanted to be in the yoga room and I wanted to try and move and just get my body moving. And it was just about moving energy. It wasn't necessarily about being in the class to improve my performance. It was about being in the energy of just taking a lot of deep breaths because yoga for me is about breathing and breathing regulates the nervous system. So if you just come in and you don't do anything but you breathe, you're going to come out feeling better. That's it. You don't even have to actually really move the body. So during this time in my life, I would actually come in and I would start to move and I'd be like 10 minutes in the class and I go, I can't do this. And I lay on my back and I just close my eyes. I'm not sleeping, but I just close my eyes and I just breathe. And we're walking out of the class and people are like, are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, are you okay? And they're like, "Well, why do you just lay down?" And I'm like, "'Cause I need to be in the class, but I don't need to be advancing in the physical capacity of the yoga asana in order to feel like I got what I needed out of the practice." Now, if, like you're saying, going to the gym there might be some days I want to up and up and up and up it and continue to increase the reps or increase the weight. And then there might be some days that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to get on the elliptical machine and just allow my body to move. And so I guess my experience or my relationship to yoga might be different than other people. I don't know. But in the first probably 5 years, I was challenging myself. I was doing all the poses where you stand in your hands and you grab your this and you take it over your head. And now I have no desire to do that because it's not about that for me anymore. It's not about what my body can do. It's like, how am I actually regulating my nervous system? I do enough, boxing and soccer and those things that will heighten and give me what I need in that athletic way or in that sport way? Does that
You
answer
actually
the question?
It does, and
Yeah.
you actually said exactly what I hoped you would, because I wanna take you down a rabbit hole with me.
Mm,
Because there's a lot of believers that say that yoga has a connection to other entities that are not it so you made this you said, like, "I go to recharge my spirit." It went from movement energy to just moving energy in your talk track there, and it's because it does both. You're moving the physical body, and then for you, it's also this recharge of spirit or whatever it is that it does for you. Some Christians believe that these yoga poses were originally designed as acts of devotion to Hindu deities, and that these poses then that taking on that position then idolizes that. And so this goes into a very interesting territory because it goes from this idea of physical movement and well-being to your admittance something that is a very spiritual practice. So where is the line drawn? Does this then become a religious practice?
mm. Absolutely not. I don't think it's a religious, practice. I think that people can study a lot of the philosophy about yoga, and they can take it down that pathway where they really study the deities, and they can learn and grow from that, and that's a choice. But I also feel like there's extreme views and then there's the generalization, and another extreme view is that when you do yoga that you are praying to a Hindu god, whereas I feel like there's things that we can take from anything. We just don't have to go to the extreme of it. We don't have to study the whole philosophy of yoga for yoga to have an impact on us when we're in a class just moving our body. So I think it's always about intention. Everything is about intention, and what is the intention behind what you're doing? Is it to serve a god? Because it's not for me. It's to regulate my nervous system so that I can be a vessel for whatever moves through me. We can call it whatever people want to call it, but it's about removing the blockages, and it's not about like looking at a certain like Hanumanasana when I'm doing the splits and praying to that god of the monkey god, even though that's where it originally comes from. So I think that there's extreme views, and then there's just I can just take the whole and look at the whole and choose the things that are going to serve me and let the things go that aren't going to serve me.
So let's go a little bit. You said like being a vessel and allowing things to flow through you. So to me, that does sound spiritual. That
Mm.
sounds like there's a spiritual connection going on. So if it's not spiritual, what are you being a vessel to? What are you allowing to flow through you?
Mm. I would say life. I mean, if we just take spirit out of it, I would say it's life flowing through me, that anytime I put up any resistance or I'm fighting life, I'm saying I know better. I know better than the sun that can rise and the moon that can rise every day. I actually have a I got this. I back myself versus I'm actually getting the feedback from life that it's giving to me, and I'm responding to life instead of reacting and going, "No, I got this. You don't worry about it, life. I've got this," because I really feel like everything is connected, divinely connected, and I allow that. And that's just my personal experience of allowing, and we could call it God, we could call it source, we could call it life. It's just that the resistance is whenever I soften to the resistance and I surrender to life itself, I'm in the best place that I can be. At the moment I start fighting or trying to control, that's when I create suffering for myself. And that's been my experience of, I guess, where yoga has taught me to surrender, whereas my experience in the church was very rule based on how I grew up, and then there were a lot of secrets, and so it was really confusing to me to understand that. Whereas I was like, I get this whole surrender thing. It doesn't mean I'm good at it. It doesn't mean I do it all the time, but I understand that, and I can connect to that deeper. When I do that, life is moving through me. I'm not blocking life.
So when I asked you about like things that like are presuppositions that people have about yoga, like one of the things before I was ever did yoga, and I've done yoga in the past, when but before you hear things like Mother Earth and you talk about connection and being at whole with the earth and with all this. Um like that's the picture I had before I had any basis of that. So where does your faith and because what I'm hearing from you almost is that almost the religion you feel disconnected with, yoga you feel connected with. Um am I interpreting what you said kind of wrong, or am I on the right page with that? You
I would
feel like
I wouldn't even call it like yoga. It's just like it's just because I'm not like one or the other. I just eh, it feels like it's hard to put it into words because I don't necessarily buy into all of the yoga philosophy, and I also don't buy into all of the Christian philosophy, but I just allow things to move through me without needing to define it. For me, life is a very feeling sentence. It's a getting the feedback from life and responding to that. So I would say that I take things from all of it, but I wouldn't say, oh, I definitely buy into the philosophy of yoga. I think I'm an amazing yoga teacher because I speak to people in a really grounded way, not in a mother earth and father sky. And I don't start my classes like that. I can respect anyone who does. I don't judge them for that. I'm open to that, but that's not how I do it. I want people to get into their bodies. I want them to live a grounded experience in their life, and also feel like they can connect to something that's more than just they are in their experience, in their trauma, in their life.
I totally agree with that, and I wanna say too that I think that because yoga helped you work through some of this, like, core anger that you held on to, that, like, anybody that finds the same resolution in physical movement of any kind it's a really healthy outlet. I mean, for me, it was sports and the gym, and it sounds like for you, it has become yoga, which we've decided to not define as a sport, and I agree with that. I think the philosophical fork in the road becomes that what I'm hearing you say is that it's the meaning is user defined, right? Which means that it's like you're not putting a definition to this because that's not you're saying this isn't my responsibility to put definition to how you're utilizing this tool. But some systems, and I'm saying systems collectively, whether we're saying like systems like the church system or in other spiritual practices, some of these have inherent meanings, right? Just like in and of themselves. So if yoga emerged from a specific spiritual worldview, is it intellectually honest to detach from that worldview completely when practicing it?
Hmm, maybe not.
Sense?
Yeah, yeah, maybe not.
I'm just genuinely curious
Yeah,
because I
yeah,
mean, like,
yeah.
yoga is not something that, and I really appreciate your perspective on it because I think that anger is something that as people is really important to work through. But if we don't have these absolute ideas of these meanings, then where is the line between this origin of just the culture and the practice of it in a spiritual capacity when it is such a spiritual experience for at least the people that we've talked to have all said the same thing, that it is a very spiritual experience. So that's kind of what I want to figure out how to get to because I've done it enough to know.
Mm.
I have to pick you the expert's brain
Yeah.
about it.
I'm definitely not an expert. What comes to the forefront for me when you say that is that it's like if if someone is on it's like okay, what's the best example? If I come to yoga and I get healing for yoga, I don't need to know the background of how I got it. I know that I feel healed. And it's like if I eat the food that feels nourishing for my body and it tastes delicious, I don't need to know how they made it. I can go into it and I can go into the details of all the things, but it doesn't take away from the experience I'm having when I eat a delicious meal. You know, it can add to it, but it can also take away from it. And I feel like sometimes we try and pigeonhole like and I love these questions that you're asking because it's detailed, and I'm like, "But I don't necessarily agree with all of it. I might agree with parts of it, and yet I know that the impact that it's had on my life has been so life-changing that I don't care." I'm just like, I don't wanna buy into it, and yet I know that there's something in it that works, and then it's also like if we talk about, for example, just looking at Christianity, it's like I love the consciousness of Christ. Like he was a simple, simple man being of service. I can connect to that. Doesn't mean I buy into the whole system, but it's like if that helps me remember that my life is of service or that I'm meant to be that vessel, beautiful. I want to run with that. I don't need to know. I don't need to get into the nitty-gritty of the actual what are the origins, because I feel like sometimes the origins can pull us away from the impact that we can have here and now today because we're so focused on, but do you buy into that? Is that real for you? Yeah.
No, I mean, it absolutely makes sense. I just wanted to hear your, because I'm with you. I think that the church is too legalistic in some ways. I've witnessed them be hypocritical, not all of them per se, but just like I've had individual experiences with individual churches where I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't feel that's how Christ would have behaved towards somebody. Uh, I do believe in the idea, though, of absolute truth, and this is a common theme on the Common Ground podcast, is because if we can't come to this agreement of what a truth is on any given topic of conversation, then we kind of reach that philosophical fork in the road where it's like, okay, well, which way do we go from here? Like, I can appreciate someone's perspective, but okay, we might not agree on this, and that's okay. That's the whole point of the Common Ground podcast. But use your example as a yoga instructor. If you saw somebody doing a yoga pose incorrectly in a way that could potentially say hurt their back, how do you walk them through that?
Mm. So I often say in my classes, you can do whatever you want as long as it's safe. And the
Okay.
moment it becomes unsafe, then I'm going to hold you accountable to that.
Okay.
So I would come over and I would explain to them, you need to lift your back thigh up because and if they wanna know the details, I can explain to them, it's because you're putting pressure on your lower back and it's not gonna hurt this time or the next time, but after you do this 7 times, you're gonna start to get some tenderness in your lower back because 'cause you're putting pressure on the joints. That's how I would deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, likewise, if have you seen the show My 600 Pound Life? Or like, okay, it's an American thing. I actually haven't seen it. It pops up in random clips. But one of the common themes in this show, without going into a whole side tangent here, is that those foods are what their body is accustomed to. And so that is what feels nourishing to them. And when you actually give them foods that are good for them, sometimes it makes them sick at first because their body is so used to being in this vitamin deficiency state that they can have side effects that make them physically ill while they're adjusting to that because they've been fed something that is not good for them for so long. Likewise, if we're fed something that is spiritually not good for us for so long, when does it become our moral responsibility to tell somebody that even though this feels good to you, it's actually not what's true?
Mm. Oh, what a great question. I feel like it's either always love or a lie. And if it's
Mm,
turning us back to love and back to wholeness and then beautiful. And if it's not, if it's pulling us away from the truth of who we are, which is that we are love, then and we are meant to be of service in love, then there's opportunity there for growth in a compassionate way, to speak to someone in a compassionate way. And I don't know if speaking to anyone even really changes their mind, to be honest, but I think it's worth bringing it to their attention. But, yeah, I really believe it's love or it's a lie. And if it's returning us to love and we're getting lighter and we're feeling better, then wonderful. Whatever you're doing, keep doing that, because you and your best and fullest expression of you is what the world needs. And so what gets you there, I don't care the method. Be in your fullness. Don't shrink yourself down because you need to fit into a method.
So, what is your measuring stick? Like, how do you base your decisions? How do you what I'm hearing is that it feels like if it feels good, if it's about love, then it's good and that but you can be loving yourself and at the same time harming somebody else. So, what's the measuring stick? Is it the love that I'm feeling is more important, or is it the love that I'm generating for the world? Where's your measuring stick,
Mm,
and how do you base your decisions upon that?
mm. I don't think it's really love if you're hurting someone else, because just sounds selfish to me. That sounds like you like someone's saying, "Oh, I love myself," and they're just excusing their behavior by being selfish versus actually coming from a place of love, because love is like seeing all the perspectives. It doesn't mean you don't set boundaries. I think boundaries are like the best thing that you can do. That's the most
Can I
loving.
give you an example?
Yes, please.
So there's a big issue on what is good for homeless people. Do you allow them to continue in their homelessness and drug addiction by giving them clean needles and you're letting them be the best version of themselves, or do you love them by forcing them into rehab? You know? And there's a big divide in America over, like, you gotta let the person you're not loving the person if you are trying to change them. If you are taking them out of that situation, if you're forcing them into rehab. But I would say, I'm loving them if I'm forcing them into rehab because I'm getting them better. You see what I'm saying with that as far as, like, a measuring stick?
Yeah. People have to choose to wanna change, and no matter what we say or do to another person, they've gotta make that choice, and they've gotta choose to want that change. So you can either give them clean needles or put them in rehab, and if they don't wanna choose to change, it doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter. So that change that's an internal motivation, and if someone is really on the streets and they want that help and they're asking for that help, yes, get them into rehab. If they wanna go down the needle and just say, "Fuck it all, I'm doing this, I'm doing my thing, I'm gonna do it." Well, okay, that's your I love you from afar, and I'll hope and I'll pray and I will wish upon you that one day life will meet you at a point where change will be necessary or you will choose change. Does that answer the question?
In some sense, but that's where, like, giving them that clean needle, letting them get high can actually do harm to somebody else
I
also.
wouldn't do that. I probably wouldn't do that. I wouldn't I would just say, blessings on you, because life, I feel like, gives us the feedback that we need, and life will give them the feedback and bring them to a place where they're on their knees or they're dead. And that was a choice that they chose to make, or they can choose to get the help that they need. I'm personally like, and this is just for me, I'm not gonna give them the clean needles because they're not in love anyways. Like, if they were really loving themselves, would they be choosing to harm themselves this way?
Exactly, and that's exactly my point. Sometimes people don't know how to love themselves. Sometimes we need to love people
Mm,
on behalf of other people, but I know there's a big controversy over that,
mm.
you know? and whether that truly is love or not.
Mm. I mean, giving someone a clean needle to harm themselves isn't love. In my experience, yeah, sending them to rehab is love, but only if they want to do that, because otherwise you're just forcing someone down a pathway that they don't want to. They're not going to receive it. And this is actually really relevant. I've got a dear friend who I've taught with for 15 years. She's taught next to me, and her son has been in and out, in and out, in and out of addiction, and he took his life, and she tried everything. She did everything she possibly could, and at the end of the day, he chose different. So, I mean, she loved him, and she loved him, but at the end of the day, that person has to make the choice. What are they going to do? Are they going to receive that love? Are they going to accept it? Do they want to make the change?
John, I don't know where you were going with that. I missed it.
I was looking for a measuring stick. I was looking for to see how, these issues are based. Are we based on, what is in our best interest? Because
Oh, the measuring stick, yeah.
yeah, that's we went down a rabbit hole, but
No,
yeah.
I've done a couple too. I was just trying to make sure that I wasn't interrupting a follow-up question because I heard all of it and I was like, there's a lot of places we could go with this, but I don't want to take away from what we were talking about. I mean, I appreciate you going down the rabbit hole because I think that it's all relevant. It really does all tie back to this idea of absolute truth because if everything is true, then nothing is true. And there's no consequence for any idea of eternity after the fact. And that's where there's this really gray line for me in dabbling, and I'm with you. Like I think that with how many branches of Christianity have been created since Christ's resurrection, like we don't there's it gets blurry, and I feel like for me in my position of faith, I have to lean on the Holy Spirit for discernment about those things. I just have things that are placed on my heart the same way that when you're like, I just need to go do this for myself. For me, it's like I gotta consult my higher up and like because this is stirring in my spirit and I don't know the answer to it. But the analogy that really stuck with me that somebody said to me, and I don't even remember where, honestly, I heard this, but it was like, if John is a good person and he believes in Christ and I'm a good person and I don't believe in Christ, so we both live good lives with this moral high ground that like we're doing good, we're putting love into the world. His love looks different because it's based on this Christian philosophy. My love is like what is good for people, what's good for me, what's good for others. And I die and I'm right. We both die. I'm right. There's no consequence to either of us, right? We both lived good lives. And whatever happens, we both get reincarnated as rich people or something like that. Like I don't really know I don't know what the latter is, but you get where I'm going with it. But then, and the flip side of that coin, if we both die and John's right, then John goes into the kingdom of heaven and God says, "Depart from me, I never knew you." Because even though I lived this good life, he was very clear that the road is narrow and that the only way to heaven was through his son. That even though I lived a good life, and here's the other thing that somebody said to me just the other day, John, was this you? Somebody said this to me, you can know Jesus, but like I know a lot of people, but if I'm not obeying him, then do I love him? If I'm treating him like this back burner friend, or if I'm doing things that he has said are not good for me, then do I love him and am I serving him? And I think that's this gray area that a lot of people say, like, I like these Christian ideologies. I know this Jesus guy. I've read about him in a couple books and I went to Sunday school 15 years ago or whatever it was, right? But like, are we honoring him in that context? And what's the consequence of not potentially? Because if it's eternity, I don't know if that's a dice roll that I'm willing to take.
Mhm.
And that's where I like fall in with this like practices like this where I just don't know enough. So that was my rabbit hole tangent. And but you do a lot of stuff other than yoga. So you're a yoga teacher, and name some of the others because that intro was I tried to write. I can't write that fast. You do too much.
um, Look, I went to school to be a social worker, so I spent a few years doing social work, and then when I moved to Australia, I became a yoga teacher, and then under after studying yoga, I was working one-on-one with women, and I just kept expanding the modalities that I work with. So I would say that I've been trained in, 5 or 10 different modalities, and and all modalities are leading to the same place. It's just who am I working with and what's going to be the most helpful way for this person to get wherever they want to go or wherever they need to get the healing. So that's yeah, it's just a lot of different studying and a lot of personal work that I've done in my own life because I don't teach something I haven't done or experienced myself. And yeah, that's sort of I think that answers your question.
Yeah, it sure does. What so these modalities, what are some of those to list it? Because I'm unfamiliar with like, and are they all do they originate from yoga kind of being like that? They're all different, totally
Yeah,
different.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I would say they're like based on just like psychotherapy if I don't know. So EFT is emotional freedom technique, which is tapping. So it's tapping on meridian lines. So you could say meridians come from Chinese, the acupuncture system. So and you've got these energy lines that move through the body, and this is just this is a study, this is a science
Sensing
kind
an
of thing.
Eastern medicine
That's
theme here.
that's it. Yeah, 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 exactly. So, but tapping actually moves the energy that's stuck in the body. So any negative emotion is stuck energy in the body. So by tapping on these certain points and saying things, it just allows you to release energy that's stuck. I work with NLP, which is neuro linguistic programming, and it's understanding the way that they speak and what's sort of behind that. Showing it shows belief systems and it shows programming and things like that. So undoing some of that programming.
That's
Um,
always so fascinating to me.
it
Can you
is.
really quick? Can
Huh?
you give me an example of that? Because it does sound interesting, but what does that look like?
Um, what does that look like? Um,
What are some of the things that you look for? If somebody were to come with it, like you're working with somebody
yeah,
on reprogramming
yeah.
this is it an inner dialogue thing? Is
Yeah,
it that what that we're
it's listening to what they say. The words that actually come out of their mouth will tell me a lot about what their belief system. And then the belief system we're looking at is belief systems are changeable because belief is whatever is like if you focus on something enough, like and over and over and over again, it usually becomes a belief system. Like and you really buy into it. It becomes then, oh, I believe that. So if people are in a belief system that let's say nothing good ever happens for me. Like life never works out. I'm listening to their languaging as they're telling me, "Oh, I want to do some work for you, but life never works out and I've had a hard environment and these things and so I'm open to doing the work with you, but it never works out for me." I go, "Well, number 1 belief
I
system."
swear.
So it's listening to what they're saying and then starting to basically reprogram the belief system into what is it okay, this is what I'm seeing, this is what I'm hearing is that you've had a really hard life, nothing works out for you, is that true? And they're often like, yeah. And then you're like, but what do you want? What do you actually want? And then a lot of people just freeze then because when you ask them what they really want, they don't know what they want, they just know what they know. And then I was like, well, my work is what do you actually want? Do you want to experience freedom? Do you want to experience joy in your life? Do you want things to work out for you? And that in itself is takes some time. And then it's the reprogramming. It's catching those the moments they say, but the and I go, whoa, just pause, take a breath. Yeah, and just consider what's going to come out of your mouth now. And let's just start changing the language around what you're saying. So if things have never worked out for you, but you don't know how to say life is for me and life works out for me, maybe we start saying like, something that's halfway in between. So it's like life is starting to work for me. Or
Mhm.
there are times when life is working out. And so we just that's the neural linguistic is the words that you're saying are the thoughts that you're having. So if we start changing what you say, we're going to start changing your thoughts. When we start changing your thoughts, that's going to change the chemistry in your body. That's going to rewire your nervous system. It's all connected.
So the power of positive speaking and manifestation and all that.
I don't like saying that because no, because you can sit here and say something over and over again, like, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And the unconscious, the body goes, fuck no, fuck no, fuck no. And the mind goes, I'm happy, I'm happy, I'm happy. And the body goes, no. And it does this, but not like internally. The body doesn't believe what the mind says. So you got to go back to the body, because the body is, I believe that we manifest what we vibrate, not what we want. So you can want something. If your vibration is not on the same page as that, you're not going to have it. Whatever is happening in our life is a reflection of our vibration. And I don't mean this in a spiritual, energetic way, even though I kind of do. I mean in a science way. You know what I mean? Like, it's both. Because, like, you read, like, Joe Dispenza's work, like, he like, You Are the Placebo, and he is a scientist studying the energy of people, putting electrodes on their brain going, "Oh my gosh." When something changes in their body, something changes in their life, and then you go, "Okay, it's not just this woo-woo stuff. There's actually something scientific to this." I went off tangent. That was my tangent.
And I would say that vibration and belief are basically the same thing, because there's scripture that says that if you have the faith of a mustard seed and you say to this mountain move, this mountain will move.
Mm,
It's, you can call it vibration, I call it belief. My foundation is belief, and it is that I do believe, like, that kind of I'm very big into the power of positive speaking, but I do agree with you. It can't just be words, because words without actions, words without belief are null and void. So yeah, like you said, you could go, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full, I'm full, and your stomach goes, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry, I'm hungry. But if you physically believe that you're full, like, the when I fasted, the power I have over my body when I'm fasting is amazing. I can tell my body I'm not hungry, and my body believes I'm not hungry, and I can do without food. So there is that, but I do agree with the whole vibration versus. I just call it belief, and I look from it from that perspective.
great.
It's I like that correlation because I was my next question for you was gonna be how do you identify when somebody's talk track, what they're saying, or even those micro changes, maybe they're not 100% there yet. How do you identify when that's not in alignment with vibrations, is what you said, or energy that they're putting out? Where do you see that disconnect?
Mm. A lot of times I can feel it. So, I just have an ability to sense things, and I think there's energy behind words, and it's the way that the words are spoken, because uh, voice tonality and is quite a big thing, and this kind of goes a little bit into the gene keys, but there's a certain there's a certain attribute that certain people have, and I have this one where my voice is has a powerful energy behind it when I say things, but if I use the wrong tone, you can
Mhm.
tell that there's something that's out of balance, So I might say something, but I'm talking like this, and then it's like, "Whoa, whoa, I can feel that. I can feel that in my system that something has gone off here in the way that you're speaking." So I guess I would say that, that's maybe what of part of my artistry of what I do with people is I can sense when things are a little bit off, and I have a good bullshit radar.
Yeah, that's helpful for sure. Can you talk a little bit about gene keys? Because I've never heard anybody say it that way, but I have had people point out to me before my voice when I'm talking at a baseline, and then if it changes, for example, my customer service voice, and they're like, "What was that?" I'm like, "That was me trying not to yell at a paying customer."
Well, I'll tell you something funny, Sydney. When we first spoke, because I didn't see your face, I just heard your voice. The first thing I thought was in the Gene Key, she'd be a line 5 because her voice has quite a potency to it. And what I mean by that is that it's like we all carry these different frequencies and you know, like, you know, Feely or John, I would guess that you're very community based, and I just kind of feel into that. And when you're very community based, the way that you communicate is like you would draw a lot of people together. You just have this natural sort of network. You'd be the center of the spider web. You wouldn't necessarily be the flashy one, but you'd be the one that's sort of bringing these groups of people together. And the Gene Keys goes into that, and it would talk about, well, these are maybe the shadow patterns that would hold you back from that natural gift to bring people together. Or these would be the special gifts that you have to offer to the world. You know, as like where with you, Sydney, it would be like, well, you have these certain gifts, but as soon as your tone changes, then we know maybe you're dropping into fear a little bit. So, like, say you have this certain gift of freshness or something, but when the tone changes for you, then you start to draw. It means that there's something coming up within you that might be like fear based, for example, and then it will come out in your tone. And so for me, because I have that, it's very much in my tone. I have to watch it, especially with my family, because sometimes I just also say something to, like, you know, my daughter, and I'll go, you know, "Ugh," like I'll kind of like say something, and she goes, "Whoa, whoa, 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 take a deep breath." She says that to me all the time, and I go, "Okay, it's my tone," you know? And my husband's the same. He has a lot of that line 5, and he's the same. I can hear not what he's saying, not how he's saying, but the tone he's using when he says it. So that's sort of that's how I use the gene keys. So when I work with people one on one and I read their profile, it helps me understand what are the things that really trigger them? How do they work best in the world? And how can I help support them in the way that they're designed to be, not in a way that I think that they should be.
That's really insightful. What are the steps to like when you go through that with one of your clients, what's the order of operations from first through, I mean, not through completion of like how long you work with them per se, but in the initial session or assessment, what are the things that you're looking to identify in that initial interaction?
Mm. Do you want to change? Are you tired of living life the same way that you have? Are you feeling stuck and you want something more for the next chapter of your life? Like, because it's kind of like what John was saying about the homeless. It's like, I've got to know that you want to change because I want you to change, but me wanting you to change isn't going to change your life. You got to be willing to show up for yourself. And if you want to show up for yourself, I can work with whatever you got. I don't care what we're working on, don't care where you're at in your life. I just got to know that you don't want to be exactly where you are in a stuck place anymore, and you want to live a life that you love, and then I'll help you get there.
How does
So
shadow work tie into the gene keys? Are those two, am I, or did I miss something? That's the
Yeah, no,
same.
no, no. So it's like you have this, you get this profile. Show it. You get a profile. It comes out like that.
Okay.
Okay, it's just a lot of numbers. It's just the numbers, and when people look at it, they go, "I don't even know what that means." Okay, and then you look at the key, and at the bottom there's the shadow, and then at the middle is the gift, and then it's your highest potential. So what happens is when I first meet someone, I'll just look at their chart and I'll be able to know where they're going to put up their boundaries, where and a shadow is just a fear pattern. That's the way I describe it. That's all it is. Is the shadow is just when it's your coping mechanism for when you feel fear. And so then if I'm working with someone, the first thing I do is I give them a gene key reading and we look at that. And then I know, okay, these things are going to come up. So then in the next 3 months when we work together, I can say, oh, Sydney, I'm noticing that this is coming up. And then it's kind of like something that backs me instead of just me using my own intuition or me feeling into it. It's kind of going, well, this is gonna keep coming up until we keep witnessing it and allowing it.
Do
Does
you
that answer? Yeah.
It does, yes, no, I appreciate it. Do you build those charts for your clients, or where do you
No. Yeah,
what
you
is
can
it?
download it for free. You
What
can
is it?
Yeah, it's called, so it's based on, astrology. So where's the sun?
Oh, it's coming
Yeah.
full
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
It's also based on the I Ching, and the I Ching is the book of changes in Chinese.
Eastern medicine. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep.
We're going.
So I guess we're looking at the Eastern world again. Here we are.
So it's astrology in a white collar. We're talking about white collar astrology.
Sure. Yeah.
I've never heard that term before. I feel really blonde right now. I'm not gonna lie.
Hey, that's all right.
Okay.
So so I
Yeah.
got like two things real quick. One, yeah, like for me, I look at my spiritual gifts and I kind of use the same type of thing, but I'm looking at my life through what gifts where I excel at, where I don't excel at, and I'm sure it's kind of similar to what that is doing by somebody looking at outwardly and saying, okay, I see that you're good, teaching, I see that you have a knack for being able to explain things really well and bring them down to a level. Your gift is in teaching, and teaching could be multiple different ways. It can be, like a teacher in a classroom. It could be pastorally. It could be mentoring, So I think that's kind of what your chart's doing on a different level, I would say. But
Yeah.
using astrology as the background
Yeah.
for
And I
for
would say
your for
it's
your
like
thing.
on steroids. You know, it's like it's really pinpointing, like going way deeper than just a generalization.
Before I get to my last question, I when you first connected with me, I saw a couple of your posts. Um, I guess just 'cause, the algorithm was showing me your post first, but I saw this one post that you were talking about your retreats that you do, and from and I know they're women retreats, but from a guy's perspective, I'm like, "Dang, this actually sounds pretty dope." Can you explain to our viewers what these women retreats are? Because, dude, like, I think there might be people who might be interested in something like that.
I'd do it just to come to Australia.
Yeah, for sure. Um, they're not for women. It's just women come. The
Oh, okay.
the men just some of them are like, it seems like there's a lot of women there. I'm like, yeah, but it's for men too. So the next retreat, a man is coming. So there you go. He's in the door. Um, retreats excite me because it's the energy of being in community with other people and the impact that I feel people can have on each other in that group level. It goes so much deeper than just like a yoga class or a Gene Keys thing. So for example, the next one I'm running is the end of May and it's yoga and the Gene Keys. So it's like we're going to play around with your profile and we're going to learn, and we're also going to do yoga. And yoga is the somatic, it's through the body. So you're going to understand these intellectual concepts and we're going to bring it into the body. And we just have a lot of fun. We have a massage therapist, we bring a cook, this one's in Mudgee, which is the wine region. And so we're going to have, someone come in and do some wine tasting. Like we have the first night we do a blindfold dinner. It's a full experience of just being able to enjoy life. And so, yes, you're more than welcome to come, both of you, to Australia and come.
Either you're a great saleswoman or you say, like, that is the thing that really, I will say, from everything that I've seen from you, like, the joy when you talk about that
Yeah.
just radiates,
Mm.
because, like, I just was like, "Wow, this woman is like, she is so, like, she is so excited about this retreat that it's almost like I gotta experience something like that," because, like, dude, like, just the excitement from her. But, my, final question is, if you could go back to any time in your life, and communicate with yourself and tell yourself something, what time would you go back to, and what would you say to yourself?
I would go back to myself probably as little as I could be, but so that I could understand things. So maybe around that 7 years old, probably, and tell her, trust whatever is unfolding. It's not going to make sense to you right now, but just trust it. Just trust it all.
It's powerful.
Yeah, that's a good message that I think a lot of people can tell themselves.
Key takeaways.
I've enjoyed this conversation. I've enjoyed getting to hear all the different stuff. But I would like to share my experience with yoga, and it was with that wrestler program. I actually lost 100 pounds in 6 months. In
Yeah.
6 months doing it, and I it was very competitive from us because it was more of a community based type of thing. And so people were always on Facebook, and like they would post their yoga workout for the day. And I'd be like, damn, now I got to work out so I can post that I worked out because this person just did it and he posted that he didn't feel like doing it and he did it anyway, and now he feels better. Crap. I didn't want to work out today, but now I have to work out. And then we would send each other challenges, and we'd be like, we're having a squats challenge. We're having, this pose challenge to keep it. And we would make it fun and very competitive. And everybody's posting their videos on how, and it was very motivating. I will say the thing that I really loved about yoga was gaining the flexibility. And the other thing I liked about it was that I could manipulate the different things going on due to what I was physically capable of doing. So you can modify poses, you can modify stuff so that like the guy has like a program in a chair. So you can do it in a chair. You can do it in bed if you couldn't get out of bed. So it was no matter where you were, you had a starting point. And for me, like I came into it having a peace through my faith that like peace wasn't something I was looking for. So I didn't experience any of that kind of part of it because for me it was pure exercise. For me it was pure, moving my body, gaining flexibility, you know, and feeling better about myself. So I think that even if you are like Christian, you don't have to be scared of yoga. You can use it for the exercise portion of it. You can use it to gain flexibility because I'm telling you, by the time that 6 months was up, I could do things with my body I couldn't do for a long, long time.
Mm.
And it was it was very exhilarating. But yeah, like I say use it for what you can. I appreciated your honesty. I wasn't trying to force you into a box. I hope you didn't feel like I was just trying to get to an understanding and trying to get to what I felt like you felt it was and trying to define it. But I really appreciate the conversation and like yeah, I think you can um practice the power of positivity or changing the way you think to do stuff. Um, but for me, everything I do has to be grounded in my faith to start with. And that's where I come at it from it. But to me, these are tools. You can use different tools. You don't have to limit the tools that you use, especially if you're being faithful to what you believe.
I love it. My key takeaway is that Shauna's awesome. I this was it was such a fun conversation for me. It really was. And for me, it wasn't even like my key takeaway wasn't even really about our topic. It was that you don't have to agree with somebody to honor them, like you also don't have to water down your beliefs to have respectful conversation. And it just was such a highlight for what the whole purpose of the Common Ground podcast is and why we started this to begin with, why we started the Common Ground Project USA. Because when both people are grounded, disagreement, like even disagreement becomes dialogue, it's not division. So it just reminded me that maturity doesn't always mean agreement. It just means emotional regulation and being able to stay present when your worldview is being challenged. And two people can do that without conflict and have growth from it. Like, I guess I'm going to Australia now. That's what I got out of this conversation. And this is like the whole purpose of the Common Ground podcast. So that was definitely my key takeaway. And I'm excited to visit you in person, I guess.
I can I just share my takeaway from this?
You next.
Oh,
Tell
okay. Yeah,
your audience.
you know, I just love being able to just be present with what's here, and I really felt like you too held just this level of presence. And I think, given the background and what I've experienced sort of in the Christianity realm, it's nice to just have a normal conversation and also feel like we heard each other. And that's what I love because, this is what you're saying that your podcast is it's about being able to hear things and really just take it in and also still be able to stand firm in your own foundations. And so I just find that refreshing. Yeah.
That makes me happy.
That's
If
awesome.
and if you had hold on, I gotta give you another mic drop moment because that makes me really happy. But I also like for all of your listeners, either clients that you're working with, clients that are like, oh, I want to reach out to her. What would you want their key takeaway from the show today to be?
Yeah, I feel like for people, if they do want to work with me, it's really about feeling a connection and a trust that I've walked this road. I'm not just telling you a philosophy. I've actually been through this journey of what it's like to experience a lot of pain and come into freedom and joy and bliss and live a life that I love. And so if that's something that someone's seeking, then yes, I can get you from point A to point B because I've done it myself. I'm a living, walking proof of that. So yeah, I don't really have a sales pitch. It's just if you resonate with me, then please just reach out and let's have a chat.
And I want to say, I think um, why this conversation worked so well was that I really feel like you are authentic. Like to me, and I think that is really cool because sometimes we can have guests on that will tell us information, but it doesn't feel authentic. From you, like I totally get that you lived through this. I believe that you lived through this. I believe that this is, your way of life and what is important to you. And so I just wanna, just say, yeah, I agree with you that I think you are authentic.
Thank you.
That's going to uh that's gonna bring us to you who are watching, and we would love to hear your takeaway. What is your takeaway from this episode? There's a million things that you could do. Do you have an experience in yoga, Gene? What was it? What was it called?
Gene Keys?
Color
Gene
astrology.
Keys.
I'm saying that in a very genuine way. I like that nickname for it. Astrology and a blazer.
Gene Keys. What was the other stuff we talked about? Retreats. If you've been on her retreat and you want to write a recommendation about it, tell people in the comments. Let them know like what goes on at these retreats. Or if it's like what goes on in Vegas stays in Vegas. What goes on in these retreats stays in these retreats. All respect to that too. But
Love that.
The final five.
the first question for you, Shauna, is who is your hero and why?
My husband. Because he's like an oak tree. He is so solid. So I can go through my ups and downs. I'm sure it's like living with a roller coaster and a firecracker at the same time. And he's just so solid and so stable and so loving and so kind. I very much look up to his stability and his groundedness.
That's so sweet. I love that. How long have y'all been together now?
18 years?
That's awesome. Very cool. Next question for you is going to be, if life were to be divided into chapters, what would this current chapter of your life be called and why?
Ooh, the deepest healing and the most freedom.
Mm,
Why? Because I've experienced the biggest bliss in my life in this chapter, and that has meant healing some of the deepest things that I didn't even know existed.
mm. I love that. That's so cool.
That's cool. What is one book, quote, saying, verse, or even pose that you live by or is your go-to?
Ooh, pose, I like that. Okay. Mm, you know what? I'm gonna go with the yoga pose because it feels like it could be something different, and I'm gonna go for mountain pose. And mountain pose is just like a standing pose when you sort of turn your palms up like this by your side and you just stand nice and tall. And I think the reason I choose that pose is because that's how I feel like it's a reflection of my life. I feel grounded and I feel strong, and yet also, there's some beauty in that, and there's some joy, and there's some challenge in it. It's sort of, it's all encompassing, and yet it's really still. It's not showy, it's just, it is what it is. So yeah, that feels relevant for this moment.
It also, just based on the way that you described your husband, sort of feels like an embodiment of how he acts in your life for you,
I
just
think
based
so.
on question number one. Just
Yeah.
So
about
he's just one of those trees on that mountain.
He's the one that covers the whole mountain. He's the biggest. Oh, yeah. He covers it. He looks after the people climbing up that mountain. So, yeah.
Next question for you is totally unrelated because my name is Sydney and you're in Australia. So, what is your favorite part of living in Australia?
What's my favorite part about it? Surfing. I live like 5 minutes from the beach, and my 16-year-old son asked me to go out surfing pretty much every day. I mean, that is, yeah, life doesn't get better than that. And just clear water and warm water. We're still in our swimmers. It's summer here. It's the end of summer. So, pick them up from school, throw the boards in the car, get in our swimmers and surf. It sounds like a
That's
good
so
life
fun.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
no kidding.
yeah.
Totally rad, surfer dude. Yeah.
Dad jokes.
uh, love that.
And the final question for you tonight is, if you could sit down and have a cup of coffee with somebody living or dead, who would you choose and why?
Oprah Winfrey.
Mm.
Um, just feel like she's lived a big life. She's also accomplished a lot in her life. She's been through a lot of up and downs, and I just love to pick her brain, on all things, and hear what wisdom she would have to offer.
You get a surfboard. You get a surfboard. You get a surfboard.
A bit that way, isn't it?
I'm not even going to mention the Epstein files. We're going to skip right over that comment that I was about to make right there. All right. And then for our viewers that want to connect with you, the women's retreat, all of the other wonderful things that you're doing, where can they go to find you? How can they reach out to you?
Yeah, best place is my website. So it's shaunahawkes.com. Really simple. And then there's ways that you can go into gene key readings, or you can work with me one-on-one, or you can look at my yoga retreats. It's kind of all there. I'm do speaking gigs as well. So it's all on my website. Just have a look, and then yeah, it's probably the easiest way. Yeah.
Awesome. This has been an awesome episode. So remember, when you take the time to hear someone's story, you get the opportunity to find common ground. Thank you, Shauna, for being our guest today.
Thank you.
For Sydney and myself, it has been our pleasure being your host, and you have been listening to the Common Ground podcast. God bless and good night.
And that's it for today's episode of the Common Ground podcast. We hope you're leaving with a little more perspective, a little more purpose, and a whole lot more inspiration.
So thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. Thank you to our special guest.
If today's conversation moved you, encouraged you, or challenged you in any way, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, rate it, leave us a review. Your support helps us reach more people who need to find their own common ground.
So for John Fletcher and Sydney Curtin,
We'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Common Ground podcast.